good afternoon, or good evening. Hello, good people. Come on into another episode of Everybody Loves Bliss. Hey, Ross Cooper, are you there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like I need another intro. I think that's getting old. I don't know. What you think?
I'm good. I mean, it'll be moot in a minute because we'll be visual, so it's cool.
Oh gosh. Okay. The pressure is on. Yes, next week. Next week is let's hope this works out. We're depending on my good techie skills to get us through that. But yes, this is our last purely audio version of Everybody Loves Bliss. So yeah, you started that soon. I wasn't even gonna go there just yet. But okay. I guess you're excited? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that
I'm
excitement?
I'm giddy. Like, you're cute. I'm chocolate. This is gonna be great.
Woo! And cheers to that with my little tiny cup of peach prosecco. So yeah, so what you got in the cup tonight?
Oh, I have what's called bodybuilder Kool-Aid.
Oh God, what is yuck? What is that?
It's not yuck.
I don't know why I even asked this
It
question.
is
Why do I even ask?
okay.
Is
It
this
is
gonna be
not
something?
yuck. It is actually delicious. So when you get tired of drinking water, you gotta have something with flavor but without calories. So what you do is you make it healthy. I have Okay, you take a gallon of water. I have a couple scoops of BCAAs, a couple scoops of CGT, a couple scoops of CGP, some protein water, some ginger aid, like that's really good, like the kombucha.
Oh God, is this still going? It's a science experiment,
No,
but
it's
go
very good.
ahead.
And then you toss in
Okay.
a pack of Crystal Light just for flavor. It is awesome.
Oh, you lost me. You lost me. A crystal light is nothing but artificial flavors and colorings. But enjoy, sir. Enjoy.
My insides are smiling.
And listen. To each his own. I'm loving it. If you like it, I love it. Anyway, we are our first 2 minutes in. We talking about beverages, and next week, our first visual show. Anyway, yeah, we are 12 days into 2021, and I'm technically thinking about turning in my trial of this year, and yeah, I think I'm good. You can have this trial experiment of 2021 because it is the chain off the chain. So last week we were talking about, because we were new, um on the insurrection at the Capitol, so we just had a little bit of information, but we had a discussion about it. And so over the week, so much has been exposed about what has and is going on in terms of politics, and of that, with that incident itself. I said to you last week, good sir, that was an inside job. And you were like, no, no. That okay? So a week later, you got it right. You got that didn't just happen by osmosis, by one little statement from your good buddy Trump. You know that now, right? We're on the same page now.
For the most part. For the most part.
Okay. 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 I figure we start there, because if we're not there, good Lord.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
what?
I just like we discussed this before. I don't think this was a 50-man operation. It might have been 12, but everybody else went along with it. So I think two things can be true. But yes, I concede. Okay, there were definitely some folks on the inside who knew some things was going down.
Well, when I say inside job, and when I continue to say that, what I'm speaking to is, of course, not everyone in that crowd knew that was going to happen. Of course not. There were thousands of people in that crowd, but you had enough, both on the inside and the outside, who were involved with the planning of that event. And the more that's been uncovered over the last week, the more we're seeing that that is absolutely the case. Oh my God, we've seen so many resignations from, the Capitol Police Chief has resigned. You've got even political officials that was resigned. Not that I think she was directly involved, but Betsy DeVos.
Yeah.
Was that her last line? Resigned. She should have never been there anyway. But I mean, you've had so many people that have resigned their posts. Also, what's interesting today, we were just talking before we came on. We're going to go to this one first. Is that BuzzFeed actually did an actual interview with a black police officer that was there during the insurrection. And just to be clear, it is not the police officer whose picture has been circulating. There's a pretty infamous clip now of the police officer who was kind of directly involved in the standoff where the rioters were coming through and he was trying to keep them back, but what he was doing was guiding them away from the chambers. Supposedly, that's what was happening. You got to watch him. He kind of not guided them, but backed away in a way that kept them from one part of the building that would have put Congress in direct danger. So you see that happening. This is not that particular police officer. This is a veteran police officer that they spoke with who decided to not identify himself. And he actually talks about in the article, if you get a chance to read it. I know you didn't because I didn't get a chance to send it to you before the show. But the officer talks about the fact that during the mayhem that there were actual other police officers from other states that came in flashing their badges, like telling him, I'm blue, I'm with you, let me in, we're doing this for you. So you have police officers involved in an insurrection that makes no sense, talking about they're taking back America. What they're taking back, I do not know because they have everything already. But taking back America, flashing their badges. Now, in the meantime, he's got police officers flashing badges talking about they're doing this for him. And he's got other rioters carrying Blue Lives Matter flags, but attacking him and calling him a nigger in the process.
Hmm.
And they've all come together under the unified movement to take back and save the United States. That's some crazy shit. That is crazy, but it speaks to the truth of what this country is and where we are. And I caught some flack because I said in the last podcast, I said that for some folks this needed to happen as a wake-up call. And I'm sticking by that because some people they were falling back to sleep. They didn't get how pervasive, how insidious, how completely insane white privilege is. And I'm talking about white folks and black folks. They were forgetting. There were folks that only understood police brutality and problems with police at the point where the police officer is beating the black or brown man's ass on the street or killing him. That kind of violence and clash with police officers, that's their interpretation of the police issues we have in this country. They don't understand historically where the police units come from. We've talked about that. We're not going to go into it, but the history of policing in this country, how it started, it's an extension of slavery. They don't get that, and they don't understand the mindset, how deep this goes. Not only do these officers want control when they come to clash with black and brown people, they want to control that person and the experience that we have because they think they're better, so they should have better and they can control because they're also shielded by the law. But they want to control the country. They want to decide whether it makes sense or not, whether even if on a lot of levels, whether it even really benefits or not. They want to have the control. We are white. This is the thinking. We are white men. We deserve to control everything. There's no logic. There's no reason. It doesn't even matter if it's in the best interest of the majority of people or even for ourselves. Because what you saw, that insurrection really made no sense. We talked about it. There was no ask. But I also say that knowing that and believing that that was just a test run.
Hmm.
So That's my bit of the soapbox that I'm starting on. But from your perspective, I want you to get in on the conversation.
I mean, it was interesting to see. Excuse me. All of this, it goes back to what you said and what you and I have discussed before off air. For me, it's just this is yet another reminder that the agenda, the to do list, if you will, for Black people hasn't changed. This is another reminder. I think there are some very simple things as a community we need to be engaging in because some of these things are grand and might take time, especially depending on which states you live in. One, and this is a big one given I come from the glorious Empire State, but I understand now we probably need to get trained and learn how to arm ourselves. Two, we need to take control of our communities in places where we can. Um, Three, we need to learn how to be as self-sufficient as possible in ways of growing food, because it's like, look, this was ugly. I mean, I saw a lot of folk watching it and laughing and so on, but ultimately, this is ugly. And what's going to make this even uglier, I believe, is let's see what the charges amount to. Let's see how much prison time is served. Because to me, that's a double whammy. Because it shows, like, hey, not only can police get away with killing black people and little to nothing happen, not only can your almost borderline your average white person get away with killing black people and little to nothing happen, but they can actually run up on their own government, pretty much give them a really big middle finger, and nothing happened. This amounts to pretty much being to function with impunity. That's a problem.
So far. And I'm going to say to you, first of all, what you said about being self-sufficient, about growing food, about being armed. I even before you came and became the glorious co-host on the show, I had been talking about that, and we are so in agreement there. Those things, I think that if we didn't get it before, we got to get it now, because the folks that came into that Capitol last week, they were they were perfectly prepared. A lot of those men are former military. Besides being current police officers, there's a lot of former military. They had walkie talkies. They had what are those wrist things? Those
Wrist
plastic
ties.
wrist ties. They had bombs. They were prepared. Now, again, I still think that that was just a test run because of the lack of damage that they did. Just thinking it was a test. But let me tell you something, what I believe, and we're going to talk more about this. This is not the end of this. This is not, I think that what may be the end of the era that people are seeing for Trump is opening up a whole new era of what's going to be happening in this. It's just a continuation. And I think you're going to see more insurrections. And what now we're being warned that on inauguration day, there are threats on the capitals all over the 50 states. Every capital in America is being threatened. I honestly, I don't think that that's gonna necessarily happen. I think that it wouldn't be smart. It wouldn't be prudent for a group like this if they wanted to make an impact on the day that everyone's prepared for them. Or not everyone, but the powers that be are supposedly prepared. I just don't think that that makes sense. But back to what you were saying, um, the agenda has not changed for us, but we're not moving on that agenda. We had our conversation. We have a lot of conversations offline. And so we've been talking about this for a while, for months, about getting folks getting trained to use a firearm and to get licensed, those who can, to have a firearm. And again, I've said this before, I never thought in my lifetime I would really think seriously about owning a firearm. But the reality of the world is that's a serious consideration. So much so that I had actually signed up to get training earlier this year, and COVID kind of interfered with that, with the place that I was going to and other things. So I did not do it. I admit it. And a lot of the folks that I talked to, we talked about it, and everyone was serious about prepping and getting ready. And a lot of folks have not done any of the things that they needed to do. And I think that for a large part of us, and I'm speaking specifically to our African American community, because we tend to be less prepared. We're not as financially prepared. We again, most of the folks that I know don't own a firearm. I know a lot of single women who don't own them, who don't know how to use them. A lot of us have not ventured into learning how to grow food, not even spices in our house. We've not put aside the water supply, or the method to clean water should we need to clean our water. I mean, we've not done any kind of preparation, and I think that we're not taking what we're seeing seriously. And I think what you just said is important. These are the warning shots. These are the warning shots, what you're seeing now, what happened with the Capitol, because they made that was grand progress to have taken over the Capitol. And I don't say that as someone who supported what happened. I'm just saying that kind of movement, to have gone from a rally and gone into the Capitol and taken over the Capitol in the way that they did. And keep in mind that those folks didn't come out of the Capitol because they felt afraid, because the police showing there overwhelmed them and moved them out. They had just done what they came there to do. So that's the other thing that we need to note. The media has not really spoken to how it was dismantled. Those folks just decided they were ready to go, basically, because they made their first. This is the first step. They made their point.
Mm.
So they left. They moved out, not because they were afraid or couldn't have fought with police officers, but it was like, okay, we made our point. We came in here, we took over for a couple hours, we did what we came to do. I don't really think they were there to kill or maim or to take hostage. I really don't.
Oh, because
But I think they were there to make. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was gonna say, the zip ties and the explosive device that was found might indicate otherwise.
Well, the explosive device that was not set, um, the zip ties that were not used, all the guns that supposedly they had, there was not a gunfight. What, let me just tell you, and we need to look historically. Historically, white people, when they go to war, they go to war. When they come to fight, they come to fight. Just, was it last night in Alabama, some team played, and all the fans went into the streets. Major super spreader that happened last night, and I think it's Alabama. I'm pretty sure it's Alabama.
It was
You have
in.
all the folks. Alabama, the governor had asked, please, at the end of the game, people don't gather in the streets. They gathered all in the streets, thousands of them, no mask, and you have fights upon fights upon fights that happen. When you have a group that's uncontrolled, that's what happens. That group was controlled. They came in carrying all of that stuff. It was a showing. I'm going to stick to this. There's no way that if they came to burn down that Capitol or do some serious damage, that they wouldn't have done it. Leaving a pipe bomb and setting a pipe bomb off are two different things. Carrying zip ties and carrying them and not using them, that's total two different things. Because there were points where they could have overtaken police officers in this, just zip tied them for the hell of it. None of that happened. Now there were some smaller fights, and again, I do know that there was the woman who was killed, and we have confirmed now that it was one of the Capitol secure. I don't. Was it one of the Capitol police officers or one of the? It was the Capitol police officer that wound up shooting her. Um, and then four other people were killed, and from what I've heard, the way that they passed the stories are back and forth. I'm still not clear. There's some place where I read that a couple of those people, some natural causes. I don't know, heart attack. I don't know, but I'm telling you, for that amount of people carrying that amount of weaponry and being that prepared, if they wanted to take down the Capitol, they could have. They would have done a lot more damage. That was not what that was for. That's my feeling. I know you feel different. You think the pipe bomb being left there was what? Why wasn't it set? I mean, you can set off a pipe bomb very easily.
Because, well, again, it depends on how far down the rabbit hole we want to go. But I just don't. These ain't the brightest. These ain't the sharpest crayons in the box either. But yeah,
These are military trained men and police officers in that crowd. Military trained. You see, are we talking about mental health? Or are we talking about skill set? Because we're talking about two different. Yeah, you had a lot of folks in there probably with a whole lot of mental health issues. We saw from some of the interviews you saw with folks or some of the statements that they gave to press about why they were there. Some of that shit ain't made no sense yet. But we're talking about skills and mental health. They're two different things.
okay.
So the folks had the skill set to do major damage. You had enough folks in there who were equipped and had the skills to bring that place down. And there were enough of them. And keep in mind, let's go back to this other thing. Where the hell was the National Guard? Where the hell? So we did confirm. Remember last week, wasn't sure about it,
Right.
whether DC Mayor had called the National Guard. She did. They denied her call. There were reports that some of the representatives who were locked in the chambers called and asked for help. They were denied. Even my good governor, Governor Hogan, who you know my governor. I live in Maryland. The governor here is a Republican. He's a decent man. I have to say, he's a decent governor. He offered to send the Maryland National Guard right over to DC. For those of you who are not familiar with the DMV, and that's the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, we are a hop, skip, and a jump away from DC. So Governor Hogan offered our National Guard to go over and save the day. The offer was denied. Somebody got to explain something. Somebody got to explain something. So we're looking at, and again, this is still it's unfolding. It's unfolding. Some stuff it doesn't make sense yet. Since when? See, again, and I brought up the Freddie Gray incident when that the National Guard was it looked like we were living in the middle of a war zone here in Baltimore during that time.
Mhm.
The National Guard shows up. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. My good brother on the other end, the police officer that gave the interview with BuzzFeed also said they didn't have gas masks that day. Now they knew the rally was happening, but obviously what happens in DC is that you're assigned the police officers, the Capitol Police are assigned gas masks. But seemingly from the way the article reads, they only bring them in when they're directed to. You had them gas masks ready when Black Lives Matter and when protesters, and we keep referring to Black Lives Matter as if protesters that came out during the summer were only surrounded or in reference to Black Lives Matter. And we say that because I say that, and then people will say to me, because I believe me, people say things to me, well, like, I thought you didn't support the organization. We're talking about the cause, people, the Black Lives Matter cause. So please know that when we're referring to that in terms of protests, that's what we're referring to. But every time they thought a Black Lives Matter protest was going to happen, gas masks were on hand. You saw how quickly they could put on a gas mask if they needed to, that they could mace and throw rubber bullets and gas into the crowd, how quickly that could happen over the summer. They didn't have them the other day. Last week, they didn't have the gas masks.
Yeah. No, I've heard so much, and this is what they, a concert of errors. Excuse me, a concert of errors. I've heard initially in logistics, the thought process was, well, what we don't want to do is have a large show of force to incite the crowd. So that's why it seemed like security was
Oh,
so
really?
sparse because they didn't want to come out all, Black Lives Matter with the riot gear and gas and everything else because that might incite the crowd.
Well, what I get it. I get it. I get it. You don't want to have that showing ahead of time, even though I don't get it. No, in fact, let me take that out of the atmosphere. If you could do it for the Black Lives Matter crowd, you could do it for the Trump supporters.
Bingo.
So we're protecting the sensibilities of the Trump crowd, but you don't give a shit how you incite and intimidate the Black Lives Matter crowd. Yeah, okay. So there we go with that. So what was the mindset after the insurrection started? Trump gives the message, you see people getting riled up, you got Secret Service all over the place. You had police all over the place. They know what's going on. So when you saw that happening and you saw the feet, the movement happening and moving towards the Capitol, really, really, we're still worried about sense and sensibilities. Then, yeah, come on. We just we just yeah, yeah, okay. America and its racism is it's almost humorous. It's almost humorous in its ridiculousness. I mean, we just and I it's interesting because these agencies will put out these statements, and I'm thinking, who are you hiring to write these statements? Like who, like how many eyes and ears do these pass over before you issue statements saying things like that? Like does it not register with someone how ridiculous and how blatantly racist some of the statements are? The admission within the words of how racist these organizations are. Again, it stops, it doesn't boggle the mind for us who get it. It just, you just, at some point, you kind of, you shake your head and you kind of laugh. There's so many emotions that happen. And I guess I should make an I statement. There's so many emotions that I have when I hear these things. You just go, here we go again. Another layer of this bullshit. But then again, I'm saying to myself, okay, so we keep uncovering how deep this goes. We keep uncovering. We keep seeing how insidious it is. Here's my thing. For the folks who were on the fence and offended and sensitive to the words defund the police, and for the people who thought it was a snappy slogan or took automatic offense, if you still hear defund the police and it doesn't hit different now, please know you are part of the problem.
Well, I can tell you ahead of time, nothing's going to change. You know why? Because the running sentiment for those who like to remain blissfully ignorant has always been, well, it's only a few bad apples. By and large, the police are
Mm,
good. It's only a few bad apples.
okay. You had police officers that let you know without question that at any moment, at any time, they will turn against you. They will not protect you. They will participate in an insurrection under the name of this crazy, um, dysfunctional idea of patriotism that they hold that gains nothing for themselves or for anyone else. And if you still could watch and continue to hear the reports that continue to come out about what happened. And again, I'm going to say it again, if now defund, at least reform, re examine the police doesn't hit differently for you, yeah. Just let me know. I just want to know who you are. I want you to keep that same energy. I want to know who you are because I want to keep you close. I want to keep you that saying keep your friends closer, your enemies closer. I want to keep you close because I know you are dangerous at this point. That's how I'm seriously feeling. Speaking of which, keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. Um, so during the last week, the president, Trump, was banned from several of the social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, which other ones? I'm not sure. I think those were the main two. And I know people are not gonna fall in line with what I'm saying and maybe not get it. I do not support the fact that he was banned from those platforms. I do not support the fact that he was censored. I don't see the benefit of that. And you're saying that, or you said offline that you think that it needed to happen because he incited the insurrection.
I mean,
Um,
yeah.
well, he did that at the rally. He didn't do it on Twitter.
Well,
He didn't do it on a social media
well,
platform.
for clarity's sake, to go by what I paraphrasing what I saw Zuckerberg say, it's one of those things where you're right. It didn't happen on social media, but what he did live at a rally caused the death of 6 people. That's at a rally. You had to be there. You
I,
give this cat a
okay.
platform of millions and millions of people, and he says something else that's going to be way more widespread. We're not going to take the chance on if this moron says something else and more people die.
Um, Here's what I want to clarify. I am not against the censorship because it's Trump. I'm anti censorship. I have said that from several different episodes. I said that several episodes back. I've been consistent. I didn't support it when the social media platforms pulled Farrakhan off, when they pulled Alex Jones. And I'm not saying I have been in line with Alex Jones, with everything Alex Jones has said, or with everything that Farrakhan has said, and certainly not with Trump. I just think that you have more information and more fuel and you get an idea of who's responding to what if you can see these people interacting. Because what's happened now, which is so hilarious to me, is in the last couple of days, the media is like, we've not heard from President Trump. We can only assume. Aides close to Trump are saying, people who know his thinking are saying, well, you want to know what he's thinking and saying. People want to know what he's thinking and saying. You and I want to know what he's thinking and saying. We do. Let's tell the truth. Whether we agree with it or not is not the issue. I want to know what is happening in this mind and I want to see who's responding to it and how they're responding to it. Because now you to me it takes away. First of all, let me backtrack. I just don't think because this wraps into the idea of cancel culture, it in the idea of we don't like what you said. And I let me say I heard what you said in reference to uh Trump's call being the point where folks, or the call itself being the catalyst for what happened. I don't think that that's fully the truth. I think because now Trump is silent. Shit is still going down. The threats are still happening. You're going to see, and mark my words. Mark my words. I'm not wishing this, I'm not hoping this. I think you're going to see another major big event. This time you won't see it coming. You're not going to have a place to blame this or try to blame this. I would much rather have these arrogant, ignorant, egotistical folks online, because there's always some big mouth who gives some kind of clue or indication of what's going on, then have these groups go further down into the underground where we don't see them. Because what happened was, we talked before that Parler was available. They've taken Parler away. And I just, again, we're not talking about whether I support the message or not, because that's not the case. But I don't think that you need to censor it, so you can't have an see. You and I can you were saying, again, we talk a lot offline. You said when we had this discussion earlier, well, the FBI and the CIA can track.
Right.
Okay, well they can. But I want to know what's going on. I want to have, there's shit that they miss all the time. And as we see now, we don't even know how many of them are involved. We can't even trust the groups that are there to protect us. So I just think that you create more of a monster, and I think that by pulling him off, you've poked the bear, because a lot of the threats that have happened now have happened in response to people feeling, for even more so, like their rights are being taken away. And I think that the right to express, listen, I again, I know this is a this is a tricky, subject here about, how far should be able to people go with freedom of speech. And I know you argued that, Twitter is and Facebook are private companies. And I just think that we need to be careful about shutting down voices we don't like. Because again, this is on a certain level the same thing we talked about when the actress from Black Panther made her statement about the vaccine, and then it was cancel her, and she, decided to get off the platform, probably advised by her PR. But, the next thing it'll be you and I. Somebody doesn't like what, one of us has said, and then all of a sudden every platform that we're on, we're no longer able to access. I just think we've got to be careful about how we cheer this on. And then here's the other thing. It's so hypocritical because now everybody's wondering what Trump is thinking.
That's goofy.
What is he saying? Who's next, who's close to him, who could tell us what he's
Yeah,
saying.
that's goofy.
So I mean, we wanted, folks wanted to hear what he was saying, whether it was to poke fun or to give you an example of the mental health crisis, or to, for whatever reason. And I just think it didn't make sense to pull him off of social media. I just don't see where that makes sense. So I'm forced now. If you ask me whether I think you can censure him, okay, but don't censor him. Censure, I'm okay with. I'm okay with the impeachment and the 25th Amendment being invoked. Because here we're holding him fully responsible for his actions. We're holding him responsible for not performing the duties he was supposed to perform. We're holding him accountable for other offenses. I think tweets, I just think he didn't, if unless you can say he directly called for someone's death, which you're not going to argue. And let me just say this too. I'm going on and on, but I swear I'm going to give you the floor. A good attorney is going to be able to argue, and again, mark my words, in terms of what he said at that rally, they're not going to connect him to that. He's not going to be. He's going to come up on charges for a whole lot of things, and some of them are going to stick. Inciting that riot is not going to be one of them.
Agreed. Oh, I totally agree with that. I totally agree. That's not, you're not going to pin that one on him.
Nope, nope. You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. I'm sorry, real quick. Is that now that all the tweets are gone, all that evidence of who he was and what he said, all of that's gone. You bring that stuff back up. You bring that stuff back up for historical reference or whatever. If it resurfaces again, his people will be able to argue, well, it's been tampered with. This isn't because if I'm not mistaken, unless it's been unless you've done a screenshot or some kind of other way of capturing it, if you just saved it, if you just did a save and it's gone, it comes back, they can always argue that it's been tampered with. He didn't say that. He didn't tweet that. It's been doctored. It's been hacked, or it's been tampered with. So I just think that it just doesn't make sense. And it's not like Mark Zuckerberg is some beacon of morality.
But I mean, the other side is it might be insulation, because the other side of that coin is you got to think, like you said, Zuckerberg isn't exactly this paragon of morality. But the other side of that coin is, yeah, a lawyer's not going to be able to pin anything on Trump for inciting this riot, but in this insurrection. However, if I'm Zuckerberg, are you? I'm not. I don't think it's too far fetched to think maybe he got legal counsel to say, look, if this guy says something on your platform, you might get your ass hauled in front of Congress again. So I don't know if this wasn't exactly preemptive. Like, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna shut this down and avoid the possibility, because he said something stupid and more people die. That's on my platform, and that's the inherent issue about this. These are privately owned companies, privately owned platforms, and this is the most litigious place on earth. Do not think for a second one of these families, if the worst case scenario occurred and Trump said ABC on Twitter or Facebook and some of these morons acted on it, that some of the victim families of the victims wouldn't try to sue Zuckerberg for it because you let this occur on your watch. It was on your platform. So I'm not so 100% sure this wasn't just preemptive to keep themselves out the fire.
Well, it's interesting that you would say that because Even the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, cautioned about Trump being removed from Twitter and Facebook. Um, that by doing that, you're giving Twitter and these other social media platforms unchecked power to decide who can speak and who can't. So anytime the ACLU that has not in the past or throughout this term supported Trump made a statement that, hey, this is going too far. So it's going to be interesting. What were you going to say about
I
that?
was gonna say, in all of this, the thing I've maintained is like there's the right or wrong part, is it dangerous part, and then there's the actual legality of it. And this is not by definition a violation of First Amendment. Is it wrong? Probably. Is it dangerous? Probably so. But I get the ACLU's caution, but see you in court. This is not a violation of the First Amendment. The founding fathers did not account for the internet when they wrote the First Amendment, so this
And that's
is
part of the reason why it's a good argument, because the founding fathers did not account for this media platform. And maybe it's time that we have to reconsider it in a different way. So I think that the debate can be had. Well, just because the founding fathers didn't see the internet coming doesn't mean that the internet shouldn't have coverage. That's my first argument. The second one is because you can legally take someone off of a platform doesn't mean that you should. Everything that's been legally allowed, oh my God, if we reference every insane thing that's been legal, slavery, how about that?
right.
It doesn't mean it's okay. You could beat your slave. Should you have been able to do that?
No, no.
You could take away somebody's right to speak on Twitter. Should you be allowed to do that? And who decides that?
But like I
Who
said, I think
decides?
it circles back to the point I was trying to make earlier. Because it is a privately owned company, if you do A, B,
I
and
don't
C,
care.
I'm going to
It isn't.
makes me
I don't care
liable.
about that.
I'm
I don't
thinking as a
care about
business
that,
owner
and
makes
I
me
want to be
liable.
clear because privately owned doesn't. They see if because a store is privately owned. If I go into a store, it doesn't mean the store owner can abuse me. It's privately owned. They can decide to abuse you as a customer.
Oh,
They can't
great.
do that.
But if you
They
walk in that
can't
same
decide to
store and you slip on
discriminate.
a wet floor, what are you gonna do? Sue the business owner, right?
I sure am.
Exactly.
But this isn't the same thing because you cannot make the argument that you took him off because he caused the death of someone or he caused a you've got to make that argument first. Somebody's got to argue that.
I mean,
And I
you
just
said
and we
something at a
just
rally and
agreed
six
and
people died. At a rally,
we but
6
but
people
at a
died.
rally, the
Right.
rally and what he said at the rally has nothing to do with or is not the direct effect of what happened on Twitter or Facebook. So you got a lot of arguments to have here. And again, this is not about for the listener, it is not about me supporting Trump. It is I have been definitive. I'm very, very careful. I'm very, very careful and I try to be very objective when it comes to censorship because I know where this can go. I know how this works. I know how far this can go. I know this could be me. Somebody doesn't like what I said. That's why I don't support cancel culture. I don't we don't always have to agree.
Okay. I was gonna say,
But I don't think we should give power away because we act like it's a free platform, but Twitter and Facebook make a lot of money off of our analytics, so we do pay for it in that way.
mhm.
So I mean, it's a lot to be said. We're not exchanging currency in that way, but it is a certain form of currency. My information, my analytics, yeah, it is. We're not exchanging money, but we are exchanging a form of currency. That's better. So I just I just
Like I said,
mm-mm. And again, there are other ways. I'm sorry, but the legal ways to go after Trump, impeach him. That someone was like, well, should we do the 25th Amendment or impeachment? Do it both. Do both.
um,
And at first, let me admit this. I think I said it to you. I was like, why are they impeaching him again? It's a waste of time. I did not understand all of the benefits of this second impeachment. That it would take away his benefits, it means he couldn't run again for another public office. If it's any public office. I don't think it matters if it's state or federal. So there's a lot of benefits to
thank you for bringing that.
impeaching Trump. I'm sorry?
No, I said thank you for clearing that up. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like there's 9 days, people chill out. But yeah, this is worth it.
No, no, there's it's worth it. It's worth it because of all of the stuff it stops him from doing in the future. It also stops him from pardoning himself. I mean, there's a lot of benefits. So he couldn't make any further pardons. He can't pardon himself. So there's a lot of reasons why impeachment is prudent and necessary at this point. Um, so I hope that that does happen along with the 20. You can do both. I thought it was either or. You can do both. I don't think Mike Pence is gonna take those steps because we need his participation. I don't think he is. But the impeachment. Sorry, actually, the impeachment. There's a vote on it tomorrow. We're a little early, so we it's going to happen tomorrow. So we are looking to see what happens. But surprisingly, not so surprisingly, your boy good Mitch McConnell is supporting the impeachment. Now, again, here we go. This is we're getting this through sources close to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, whose Twitter is still working, by the way, has not has not sent a formal tweet or put out a formal message saying where he stands. But you saw the New York Times, the Post, several other news sources are saying that sources close to Mitch McConnell are now saying that he is in full support of the Trump impeachment. He's willing and ready to go along with any kind of sanctions to get Trump out of office. Um, what's your take on that? A little too late.
It's yeah, it's called. Well, I couldn't beat him, so let me join him. Because just a minute ago, when you were running things, f your $2,000. Nope, we ain't doing it. But now,
Right.
since you done lost control, you've essentially been neutered. Oh, let's play nice, guys. Hey, remember me? I'm down with the team. Man, whatever.
I
Whatever.
mean, I don't get what this is what this shows is that v- politics is so dirty.
Mhm.
Politicians are dirty, politics is dirty. I used to always refer to it as this major chess game. It is just constant war. It is. It's constantly looking over your back.
Mhm.
It's constantly double checking. It's constantly side eyeing. Like that seems like a horrendous life to live. And watching these politicians, what you should understand, I hope that our listeners understand, is that the system, the way it stands, it works. It works the way it's set up to work,
Mhm.
but it's corrupt. It was set up in a way that's corrupt. We really are going to have some serious conversations moving forward about dismantling. And I know that that scares people, just like for some folks. Hopefully not now. Defund the police sounded like the craziest, most radical thing. But I hope we're understanding that you've got to dismantle this system. And it doesn't mean you go without a system, uh that you sanction lawlessness. No one's saying that. You There's, every time you dig and like you uncover, you realize there's more shit underneath. It's like, Jesus, we're trying to clean stuff out and trying to get clear on what's going on, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. This game that Mitch McConnell's playing, so what? So what? He may vote to get Trump out. Who's going to trust Mitch McConnell? Who's going to invite him to the cookout? I mean, I mean, what do you, why don't, the thing that Mitch McConnell should do, which is what some of these other politicians have done under the Trump um, grouping, is they've resigned. Like, to me, if you want to show that you really want best for the country, Mitch McConnell, get your ass out of there. Get your ass out. Just
I
go.
mean,
It is time for you. You 200 years old. You have served. You've succeeded as being the longest serving. Is the longest running serving senator in Kentucky? Isn't that his? Didn't he earn that title? Now
I think
you
so.
got it. Get on and go. Just go.
But
Just go.
that's just
What? What you gonna say?
it is just so. ridiculously disappointing because it's not only him, but he got there from the people of Kentucky. What does that say about the people of Kentucky?
Ugh,
How do you? I, I,
Jesus.
in a nutshell, just to circle it back to where we started, what kills me about all of this, all of
Mhm.
it, is the sad reality in a nutshell. And I might have mentioned this before. I think it's worth mentioning again. Is we live in a country that has not accepted the loss of 1865. That is very scary and troubling to me. That they have not accepted that, hey, black people are equal, they're no longer slaves, you need to treat them with the same respect as everybody else. Hey, times change, and we're trying to do this thing called equality now. And I am done because the also thing that caught me is there were people running up in the Capitol with a Confederate flag. Why do you, I don't, are we really just that stuck?
They're taking back America. It's our America.
Like,
We're taking
what are
back
you?
our country. Where the hell you taking it back to? I don't know, but that was the art. I mean, that was literally when you could hear folks speak, like on those sound clips. That was the kind of shit they were saying. Not that, and again, I'm saying the same thing again. Not that we're going to stop the vote. We think the vote was unfair. Um, we don't believe in the process. We're afraid that things have been tampered with. Nope, 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 nothing logical. We're taking back our country. You took back nothing. How about this? And I don't know if I said this. How about why weren't you at the Capitol when the announcement for that $600 stimulus check came, knowing that
Hmm.
people have been out of work for 10 months, people are losing unemployment, and
Hmm.
people are going to be homeless, probably in a lot of the states where you came from. How come you weren't taking over the Capitol then to protest for the people? How come you weren't doing that? Why weren't you taking back America and deciding then and there when that piddly amount of money was announced that that is not enough? We have, most of us have been paying taxes for years. We're hardworking people. We have paid our taxes and we deserve better than this.
Ooh.
How come you weren't taking over the Capitol then?
And on top
How
of
come you
that,
didn't do that?
and on top of that, when they said, "Hey, you know what? When they said, "Hey, you know what? This is wrong. Let's bump it up to 2000." Who was the person that caused it to not happen? Your boy Mitch McConnell. Like you said,
Right.
how come you weren't protesting that?
Well, there were rumors that folks went to Mitch McConnell's house. Why didn't you take over that house?
Right.
Why did you have an insurrection at Mitch McConnell's house? Right. The person who stopped that little bit of money, that little, what was it, 2000 they were trying to get it to?
Hmm.
Why didn't you protest and make an example of Mitch McConnell, the person that stood in the way? Now, and here's the funny thing is that so the other day they were okay with Mitch McConnell. Today, now that the rumors have surfaced that Mitch McConnell is supporting the impeachment of Trump, now he's enemy number one. So them same people that showed up at the Capitol, a lot of them who loved Mitch McConnell the other day now hate him because see, there's no you ain't got no friends in this political game. And you ain't got no friends. That's why these folks, especially my people, black folks, when black people get start talking polarization and getting aligned with a side, my head spins with that. You don't have no friends. Your friend is based on what their actions have been. And that can change from day to day, from moment to moment. You ain't got no friends. You better get an idea. You better get a thought. You better get a direction and focus on that and stick with that. And everybody who agrees with you, who's willing to work with you to get to that point, to make the changes that you need changed. I can't even talk. I didn't have that much prosecco, you know that. But the people who are in line with you, to move with you, to make the changes that benefit you and yours, and don't harm other people, those are your friends. That's your alignment. They may not come from your political party. So be okay with that. Because you ain't got no, this the whole idea that you can get in alignment with one party and, as long as you support the party and get them in the office, you're going to have a friend. I don't know where you seeing that. We've not seen that on either side. Because again, while we're talking about Republicans all night tonight, please know on January 20th, them first 100 days, you and I are going to be on it. We're going to be watching everything. I'm going to see what this new regime is going to do. I think not very much, but okay. I'll be hopeful. Will you be hopeful with me?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. I think the thing that I wanted to mention and what you said, politics is dirty, but politics is also like, look, lobbyist is a really cute way to say bribe, and a lot of these guys and a lot of these politicians are in businesses' pockets. And to circle back to where we started when we were talking about people being banned and these being private.
Can we before you do that,
Mhm.
can we say on both sides, please?
I'm sorry. I thought
On
that was
both
the
sides.
implication. I thought that was the implication.
Can
Yes,
we say that?
absolutely on both sides.
Okay.
Absolutely on both
Okay.
sides. And I was gonna
Thank
say
you.
running back around, the inherent issue, and I don't know if there's anything we could have done, we the people could have done to stop it. Because the truth is we live in a capitalistic, money hungry society. But when I circle back and I say, hey, Twitter and these other companies, they're privately owned companies. This is the problem. Companies own politicians, and we've given them way too much power. Now, again, not sure what we could have done to stop it, but you are absolutely right. There should be a referendum and debate on, hey, you guys are controlling the flow of information by that edict. You are technically press. This is First Amendment protected, but these are multi-billion-dollar businesses, and no one wants to have that conversation and tip that apple cart. But you're absolutely right. It's wrong. It is censorship, but because it's a business and we all respect business, sarcasm. um, they're getting away with what they're doing, and politics is a very dirty game on both sides. I think, like I said, I think it's like WWE in public, Pelosi hates McConnell, and it's a big showdown, and in private, they're having lunch together.
I was gonna say, but they were at each other's house for Thanksgiving, probably.
Right.
I don't know for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, my thing is that again, when it comes to the censorship, don't take away my ability to see all sides.
Hmm.
Don't take away my ability to make an educated decision for myself. That's also what it does. It takes a bit of your ability away to choose. It hides. People were able to hide for years because they did not want to seem um, out of trend with whatever the mindset was. So now that the liberal mindset has for most of the social media. So everybody wants to be in line with diversity. Most folks, I'm not. We're not talking about GOP and Republicans, but we're talking about this liberal agenda. So we know a lot of our liberal friends underneath it all are right in line with the conservative values. And as folks got comfortable, I think you noticed it like on places like Facebook, you started to see that be uncovered. Like we've talked about this before. Like you notice, it starts out with whenever the protests happen or there's commentary on the black body that got left in the street because of a white police officer. This is prior to what went on with George Floyd, because George Floyd, it did something. It changed a lot of folks' mindset. Plus, you had COVID and all those other things that add to. But okay, so you notice the ones that never say anything. Like you started to notice the white friend that never said anything, or the black friend who always had something negative to say when you talked about the police officer. So people start to get comfortable when they show who they really are. So one of the things that I don't like either about this kinds of censorship is it puts people back. Now they're going to display their representatives. Now everybody's on heightened alert to a certain degree. I don't want that. I want to know who you are. I want to know who you are. Having these social platforms open so you can agree to disagree, or you can go back and forth, or however you do. I want to be able to see who people really are. So that's the other thing that happens when you start locking down and pushing people. So everybody gets on alert. Now, of course, I'm not going to be on alert. I'm going to say whatever it is I'm going to say. And you do it. But you understand what I mean? You
Yeah.
know, people start, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because they're censoring people and they don't want to get canceled. You know, they're worried about that. So they're not truly telling who that's the danger of that too. I want to know the truth of who you are because I'm going to tell you, it's a whole bunch of folks that showed up. Um, let's talk about this real quick because this came up.
Hmm.
Um, there was some exposure of some of the Proud Boys that showed up at the Capitol. I don't have the names in front of me, but there were two that circulated. White men, Proud Boy tattoos, look like one specifically I remember seeing, look like your average redneck. And audience, I'll find them. I'll find them and I'll post. Look like your average everyday redneck. Well, they discovered these men were married to black women.
Face palm, face palm.
I'm not even going to get deep into that. So, two things I'm going to go back to that I've said to you guys before is that sometimes the person that you would least expect to have a certain kind of mindset and a behavior does. And every now and then they'll participate in some antics and maybe get caught, and you see him and you're like, "Oh shit, I didn't know Bob was that way." What? We just had lunch. I mean, it happens. I mean, it does. And then I have said this several times, because a person marries and sleeps with someone every day. Mitch McConnell's wife is Asian. Do not think that he has not said some horrible things in that office with Trump in reference to the quote unquote China virus. Okay. His wife being Asian ain't got shit to do with what I'm sure has come out of that
Right.
mouth. Okay. Again, and we've said this, I've said this, racism is so complex. It is so multi-layered. The expectation that you have with what it does, what it will and will not do, what a person who has been demonstrative, I can't say it, demonstrative,
Demonstrative.
demonstratively, demonstratively,
Bingo.
demonstratively racist. Oh my God, it was just a little bit of prosecco. I swear to you, it was. Oh gosh, oh gosh, that is hilarious. Demonstratively racist. So racism and what people do and how it shows up, I, that stuff gets real complex, and it showed out in some of these white men that showed up at the Capitol, taking back their country and going back home to their black wives and kids.
Like,
I,
like, honey, guess what I did today?
I, I got tongue tied and all talking about this, but that's how. I mean, we got some man, we got some shit, don't we? We just got some shit here in this country to deal with, and yeah, yeah, it's exhausting.
Please, just let go. Like these white folks are holding, or these white men are holding on to an era that is long since gone. Like, just let it go.
Listen, how you gonna let go? You always been in control. You've always been top dog. That's a hard man.
Because
I
here's the thing.
they
Here's the
just
thing.
can't get it. And life is happening, and we'll go there another time, but I mean, life is happening. Nature is doing some things that's taking them out anyway.
Right.
Uh,
I'm just thinking to
you
myself,
know, go ahead.
no one's coming for revenge. We just want to be equal. That's all. You think by the way they're acting, oh my goodness, they're going to treat us like we treated them. No, 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 no. Equal opportunity, equal pay, equal rights, equal treatment under the law as the law states. I saw a meme
I,
long ago that made perfect sense. Be happy black folk just want to be equal and don't want revenge. But they act like revenge is coming.
but we want repair. Some of us want repair because you're not going to settle the debt just making things equal now. You're not going to do that. You're not going to settle the debt. And I think that that scares folks as well. We're going to have a talk about reparations and what that's going to look like.
Mhm.
We're going to have repair, because one of the things that we're going to have to get real about is the deficit in the Black community.
Mm.
And we've got to repair the debt. And that's going to look real scary for a whole lot of these folks. They're not even with the funny thing is they're just mad about this surface shit. They're just mad about Trump not being in office and having to wear a mask. Now, one of the things that I think is I'm not going to discount, which is scary for everyone, is what's happening with the economy. Now, for a lot of these folks, that to me, if they were going and screaming about the economy and not being able to pay the bills and feed their kids, that would have made more sense to me too, to charge the capital, because you've got to we've got to fix this, and we've got to get serious about that. That would have made sense to me. But you've got 40% of the economy shattered, pretty much. And the companies that are surviving and thriving is basically seven companies. What is it? Amazon, Netflix, FedEx, who I mean, you've got seven companies that have really thrived during this time. And basically, you the small and medium-sized business owner has been crushed and is still being crushed. So that's a legitimate concern. That's a legitimate concern for a lot of us. It's the way that we go about fixing it. Yeah. So we got to get clear. What is it you want? Because that coming in, that I'm taking back my country bullshit. I ain't wearing a mask because my rights are being trampled on. How about you challenge Fauci and the information he's given you and not given you? So you don't have to wait in line for a COVID shot, or your jobs or these other industries don't tell you what you can and cannot do because you don't have a vaccine. How about you focus on that? See, all that energy that was used at the Capitol, that could have been used for such good. You could have done so much good with that energy, all that warrior energy. Instead, you running into the Capitol because Trump told you what to do. Trump is going to be out of office in, what is it now? 8 days. He's going to be gone in 8 days, and you won't hear from Trump. He will be on the golf course, uh, getting fatter and sitting in the sun doing nothing. Angry as shit, but doing nothing.
Mhm.
But he'll be okay. He'll be okay until they start coming after him. And there's enough people, as we see, that were willing to do what they needed to do in terms of the insurrection that might help him to escape. He might leave the country. Yeah, I mean, I think that this tale is going to be interesting to see what happens. But at the end of the day, how's that going to help you? And in terms of arrest for the insurrection, man, Ross, I don't think you're going to see that many. Compared to the number of people that went to the Capitol that day, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of arrests. And you're not going to, and the charges,
You
yeah,
have
I mean,
to. You
you're going to
you
see
have to
some.
send a message, because if you don't,
You're
if
going to
this is
see some.
probation, then there's no there's you. I don't think you can. I mean,
Okay, let me
nothing
tell.
else. You throw the book at them and give them tall numbers and let them fight out on appeal. But if you see all this, you sitting there with your feet up on Pelosi's desk and you get probation, oh hell no.
Okay, so like I said, a few. Okay, so that guy, he'll get some. What's the serious? What's serious time for that to you? What kind of serious time you think he's going to get for that?
I mean,
He'll get heavier charges
you need
because
to be.
Pelosi ain't gonna sit back.
This needs to be 5 to 10.
Okay, he'll probably get 5, maybe. Okay,
Like
and
again,
and then
dish it out and then let them fight it on appeal. But if you sit here and slap on the wrist and probation for everybody, oh, that is zero deterrent.
I
Period.
didn't say you were going to get probation for everybody, but I don't think you're going to get the numbers. First of all, you're not going to get the numbers of arrests. Keep in mind what's happening too. You got another distraction coming. You got the distraction of Biden and Harris going into office, so that's going to distract from what just happened. because people are fickle. Their attention span is real short. So as of the 20th, everybody's going to be sitting around with bated breath, waiting for something to blow up. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong.
Oh
I
no,
don't think
it's
it's going
not
to
gonna happen.
happen.
They're gonna have
I,
DC extra extra locked down. You know that.
I'm not talking. Well, the threats weren't only for DC. They were, remember, the threats are for every capital in the United States. I really don't think you're going to see fireworks all over the country. I just don't think that's going to happen. Not on inauguration day. So people are going to be distracted by that. I do think you're going to see another incident, a much bigger incident that's going to take all the attention away from what happened here, and you're going to see the news coverage is going to it's going to wane, and you're not going to see that many arrests. And yeah, the ones who you got the greatest pictures of, the ones who pose for the cameraman, um, those guys, yeah, you'll see arrests with them. You'll see things happen to them. Major charges, I just don't. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. So 5 to 10 years for that. Okay, believe me, he's done time before, probably. Um, I mean, so 5 to 10 years for that. He's going to go in there, and there's a white Aryan group that's going to call him a hero, that's going to protect him. So I mean, we're just not. I just don't think you're going to see the amount of charges that you're expecting. And I don't think the charges are going to be as serious as you're expecting. And I think that people are going to stop talking about this in 8 days, when you have the new guard, because then everybody's going to get relaxed again. Because you're going to have Biden and Harrison and people kumbaya, um, and nothing will happen on that day, and people will think it's over, and they'll get so relieved and comfortable, and then something else will happen. There'll be another incident, and then probably you won't see any more incidents for a while. That's my prediction.
Hmm. Okay.
So we're easily distracted in this country.
I mean,
We're easily distracted. We don't ask a lot of questions. This was fed to us. Keep in mind, this was fed to us. All of those cameramen, it is hilarious to me. That's the other thing I find questionable. How comfortable all of those camera folks were, the press was in there while that insurrection was happening. I didn't see. I mean, I saw outside, where there were stories of, and I saw pictures of press folks being attacked. Cameras knocked out of hands, and that kind of thing, and being cursed out. But a lot of those press people inside, I mean, they were having, they had great access and great angles, and rioters, insurrectors posing. It was like, what? I, we this is it was like it was fed to you almost. We got them on pictures. They're posing. This one's in Nancy Pelosi's office. They skipped the majority whip's actual office, the office where his name and his title was, and somehow knew the little side office he'd been using. That's pretty interesting in and
hmm.
of itself. No, no, but it wasn't an inside job. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I
Okay.
believe two things can be true.
Yeah,
And like
okay.
I said, okay, clearly this was some folks with some inside knowledge, but it ain't like these cops on the outside needed a whole that weren't in the loop needed a whole bunch of convincing.
No, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that it's an inside job. Again, it doesn't mean that everybody knew, because everybody didn't know. No, of course you just needed a large enough number to make it happen, and that's what you had. And again, this was the first showing. And so we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. Before we go, because we're an hour and something in, we got to shout out Representative Cori Bush. She is.
She is going in, yo. She is going in.
I love her. Well, she introduced today House Resolution 25. Under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, she is asking that there be an investigation, and basically a firing and expulsion of the GOP members of Congress who attempted to overturn the election. And she's saying, in turn, incited the white supremacist attack at the Capitol. I am so for her. I am so loving her for doing that. Plus, she went further and she did an interview that we saw right before we got on the mics, where she's actually exposed the fact that on the actual day of the insurrection, when it was time for Congress to come back in, that some of your Congress people are so arrogant that they pushed their way past security and did not go through the metal detectors. See, there's a problem with security anyway. That speaks to there being a problem. How you gonna have how could that even be allowed? You just had a major insurrection happen, your building taken over, and you had members of Congress who were able to push their way past security and not go through the metal detectors.
Mm.
I,
I mean,
go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
I mean, I
So
put it
go
like
ahead and
this: if
say.
this, no, I think that's a real tacky thing to do. I'm just not gonna go through like that's stupid. But the notion of keeping your peace, keeping your gun on you, I'm not completely opposed to that, especially now. If I'm a member of Congress, I think it might be a necessity because clearly you never know who might run up in there. So I'm not concerned. I think when I saw this piece that she mentioned, her concern is the senators having their guns, so on and so forth. I get it, but at this point, I'm a lot more. I'm not worried about some old senator with a gun. I'm more worried about these morons who just decide to run up in the Capitol and there's zero to no resistance.
Why are you not worried about some of the
I
folks
mean, be
that
serious. Is Ted Cruz gonna pull out a gun and shoot me? Like,
I
seriously.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know what level of craziness based on what we're starting to see. I don't know what level of craziness that we're dealing with. You think that Ted Cruz couldn't snap? You think that one of those old adamant, arrogant, angry geezers couldn't snap? You think that that couldn't happen
They are bought and paid
and
for with
lose it?
lifetime lined pockets. You think
It
they're
doesn't
risking that?
matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've seen people snap for less. And the only thing that stops a lot of things that happen are access and opportunity. So I don't know. And I think that her concerns are legitimate.
Hmm.
And I understand what you're saying too. Being after what you saw happen, after you seeing that the Capitol Police couldn't protect the building,
Mhm.
and in turn that could have gone yeah,
Uh,
again. I'm going to say this again. I'm going to go back to what I said. That was just a showing, because I think that if those rioters wanted to show out, they could have done some serious damage in there. I think that they didn't, because that's not what they really went there to do. But again, I understand your side of it too. But I mean, at the very least, if you're going to have a gun in there, we should, folks should know it.
Agreed.
Folks should
Agreed.
know
Pushing
it. You
past
should have
security,
to,
like, nah, that's nonsense right there.
yeah, that pushing past security and not having to, and how is that allowed? How is that allowed? So there's a whole lot of shisty behavior. There's a whole lot of mini breaches that are happening in that building anyway. Seems like on a regular. So yeah, her concern is legitimate, but I also understand what you're saying. You understand now that if you are there in the Capitol and you're a representative, you are not necessarily protected.
Mhm.
So what to do in that situation? I don't know, but I'm glad for Cori Bush, because she is bringing it. She's telling it. She's bringing it. She's going for it. She's doing the work, and my salute to her, Cori Bush. Yay, yay! That's the kind of work I like seeing us do. I love seeing sisters do, and I love that she's brave and bold in that way. And we're going to pray some protection over her for being so brave and so bold. So yeah. So I listen, that's all I got. I got nothing else. What you got something else?
Not that I can think of. I'm trying to think of anything, small or big we missed. I think
Oh,
that's.
listen, don't get yourself on a no-fly list.
Oh, I took great joy. Be mad at me if you want
I'm
to,
sorry I had
people.
to throw it
I,
in.
I took great joy in watching the reactions. Oh my god, they could be a terrorist.
Oh my god.
Oh, I took great joy. That was better than Saturday Night Live. I took great joy.
Now, I will say, I will, I want to say that the powers that be, that was one of the ways that they quickly moved, that they got people on the no-fly list really quickly. There's a whole lot of folks that didn't know who were at that insurrection who haven't even been, they hadn't even been contacted by any federal or law officials as of yet, but them asses are on the no-fly list.
I mean,
And I,
to me,
yeah.
the audacity or caucasity of it all. Like, so let me get this straight, homie. You really thought you were just gonna run up in the Capitol, break shit, then get on a nice flight back home and go to work the next
Well,
day,
some
huh?
of them will, but some of them will. Some of them are going to get away
Oh,
with
you
it.
nervous?
I'm
It's,
telling you.
but these goofballs and
But
not knocking. I'm not saying this to be insulting, but it has been documented. Trump's base is largely comprised of uneducated white guys. Y'all all ran up around there
yeah,
with no mask on, so everyone can see your face. You know how easy it's gonna be to find you now. Gonna take a little time, but you're gonna get found. And clearly,
well,
you're
yeah,
not gonna get away with this. So be worried.
okay, yeah, and I think that they counted on the fact that they know that a lot of them will get away with it, and that's what they moved on.
Then you got
But
the airport.
yeah, so that no-fly list is it's humorous now because I think within 48 hours
Mhm.
it grew like by like 5,000, 10,000 people because what they're doing, or this is the report that we got, is that what they did was any car within a certain area around the Capitol that day. So if your car was even parked, like I think it's within a 3-mile radius,
Mm.
they're looking at all the cameras and they're getting all the license plates.
You
So
drove to
yeah,
insurrection instead of catching the train. You are
yeah.
yeah. I want to say
Well,
y'all
yeah.
didn't think this through, but it's not that you didn't think it through. You just thought your whiteness would save you. Oh,
And keep in mind, it will for some of them. But yeah, a lot of them are going to. But these kinds of groups like this, remember, they're willing, they're willing to, there's some folks who are willing to be sacrificial lambs.
okay.
They thought they were going to fly home first,
But here's
but
the
yeah.
thing, though. Like you said, even if you're right, and the penalties are small, you know what you're not gonna do? Work. You've pretty much consigned yourself to very menial tasks because no one's gonna hire you. You're the guy from the insurrection. No one's gonna hire you. I hope you're in business for yourself. You're not gonna.
Other like-minded folks will hire them within their small business. See, they don't have the same level of concerns that a lot of them don't have federal jobs and state and government jobs. They work for small businesses. I'm not saying all of them because again, you had other police officers there flashing badges.
Okay.
So I think that
You're not gonna be able
and
to get a
keep in
job.
mind,
You're not gonna be
keep
able to get a
but
job
keep
at Sears. You're toast now.
See, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. Because we know that police now this is a different thing. We know that police officers that have been involved in these killings of these young black males. I know you're probably laughing inside because the comparison for a lot of folks it doesn't even add up to how the value system is in this country. But we know officers that have been fired from one department and go the next day and get a job with another. I just say I don't know. I don't know. I think that you forget that white folks have a level of insulation and they protect their own. And keep in mind too, one of the things that we're not going to get into tonight. You got a lot of these folks that know how to live off the grid.
Mm.
They know how to live off the grid. So that's what gives you the ability to take the kind of risks that some of these folks took. So you got to consider that. See, you're thinking from the perspective of us. Like we're like, oh Lord, we can't get caught doing that. We won't be able to get a job. I'm going to jail. Can't fly. No, mm-mm. They know they know that they're insulated on a lot of levels. Like I said, go to a federal prison. There's a whole Aryan Brotherhood with waiting with welcomed arms. Can't get a job. Brother-in-law, somebody owns a business that'll hire them.
Wow.
I mean, it's a it's a different experience. We live differently. Our experience is different. So you got to understand that. So the kind of fears that you're talking about,
Right.
how long will they be on the no-fly list? Is it permanent? Is it indefinite? I don't know.
That part I don't know. I'm probably guessing until this matter is adjudicated.
Well, here's the thing. They'll get a good lawyer. You're going if you don't have a picture of them there, then oh, I just went to the rally. I didn't go to the Capitol.
I I just
I,
don't think
I'm
that's
just
going to
saying.
be insanely
I'm
hard.
telling you. I
All the
don't think that. I
technology,
don't.
I don't think it's going to be insane. And these goofballs with no mask, I just don't think it's going to be insanely hard.
Well, the goofballs with no masks. Now, the guy in Nancy Pelosi's office, the goofballs with no masks. But you didn't get a great picture of me. Dig it. Until like a few hours ago, folks swore up and down Chuck Norris took a picture at the insurrection, at the rally in the insurrection. They were like, "Oh, it's him. He's an asshole. I knew he was a two-bit actor." And said it wasn't even Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris, 80 years old, on his ranch in Texas.
Like, yo, I'm at
Some guy
home.
that
Dude,
looks
not
like
Chuck
Chuck
Norris.
Norris. But I'm serious. I mean, we're laughing, but there was a picture that circulated. Chuck Norris was trending on Twitter. People are already calling him an asshole, a Trump supporter. I knew he wasn't no good, a two-bit actor. All based on a picture that they saw on the internet. Now, to me, it looked like him, but it didn't. But I'm thinking this looks like a younger version of him. This wouldn't be unless he's gotten the Botox of life.
Mhm.
This is not Chuck Norris. But people swore up and down. I mean, there was all kinds of shit being said about Chuck Norris. They swore it was him. How dare he? Cancel him. Cancel his shows. And this 80-year-old man is in at his ranch. He had to make light of it, thank God. No, that's a wannabe. He's not as handsome as I am, kind of
Right.
thing. But I mean, still, I mean, that's how quickly that can happen. And believe me, it's gonna be some fun. I'm just telling you, you're. I don't know what your expectation is, honey, but pipe down. You're not gonna get. I hate to tell you this, hon, but you're not gonna get all the arrests that you
No, I don't
think you're
think they're
gonna
gonna be
get.
arrested, but I think a strong message has to be sent. So this ain't gonna
Mm,
be.
okay.
You're not gonna get some attorney and getting you off for probation. This is a federal. This is crimes on a federal level.
Again,
With federal crime, whether you know it or not. If I'm not mistaken, statutes are in place. Whatever Fed time you get, you got to do 85% of your time.
okay, so somebody gets 10 years, they do 8 years. Okay.
And ain't no going on. No, you do 85% of your time. So even if this clown gets 5 years, you got to do most of it.
Okay.
So yeah, I just don't think the government can afford. I don't think Biden's administration can afford to go soft here.
Okay.
Convict, let
We'll
them
see.
fight
I
it on
mean,
the pill. But I think we're about to be very shocked by what's about to happen to these clowns.
okay. Again, we'll see. Get ready for the distractions and get ready for whatever the next event. I don't think it's going to happen before we do our lovely our podcast next week is scheduled for um the same day as the inauguration. That was I don't know. That's just our schedule.
Mm,
Oh Lord. So look, I'm going to have a conversation with you offline about maybe doing a special after the inauguration podcast. We'll see. I mean people are ordered to stay home. A little pomp and circumstance. It might not be worth talking about. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. How about that, audience? We'll play it by ear. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we are, and we'll probably drop it before the actual inauguration happens,
mm.
unless folks want us to wait a day, the day after. No, nah, we're not doing that. We're dropping. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll decide. We'll keep you updated. But I was like, oh, it's inauguration day. I just thought, well, oh no, it's sentimental for me. It's my grandmother's birthday plus 120 2021. It just felt good because, you know, you read that back and forth, it's the same way, the 1, 20,
Oh,
20.
yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, that's special. We want that. So we'll figure it out because we're still that kind of podcast. We still can figure things out. But okay, Ross, I really have nothing else at this point.
Yeah, I'm done. The tank is on E. The tank is on E.
The tank is on E, sir, and I've already been tongue-tied several times. Anyway, so listen, you know, I'm excited about the next step. We will see you next week on the 20th. You'll see us. So we're excited about that. And listen, good people, if no one's told you today, we want to tell you we love you and we want the best, the absolute best for you. So that's it for this show. Say bye to the people,
Bye
Ross.
bye.
All righty. See you next week.